So, hello and welcome to another little one-to-one session. I've got Neely Khan here from Neely there. Neely, how are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. How are you bearing up with the lockdown?
I want to say it's going like really, really well, which it is. I think it's really up and down. So if I'm completely honest, most days are great. Some are not so great. But, it's
Okay.
good. I've been really busy. It's been very productive.
So,
Yeah.
Neely, but you're safe and well, yeah?
Sorry?
You're safe and well.
I'm safe and well.
Well, I know you're safe and well because I speak to you about 10 times a day. So,
Actually. Are you safe
um,
and well?
I'm very safe and well. I'm in Miami right now. So,
I was going to say I am totally
you
loving.
see, it's really good, isn't it? You can just disappear. I
Yeah, like
love
your
it.
hands still when you move them too quickly.
Yeah,
It's really.
you can disappear right out of the thing as well. Look. Well, that. No, it didn't work.
Oh, it's still very. Yeah.
Yeah. So Neely, well, I know what you do. So tell the people what it is that Neely there does.
So I'm not going to say nearly there does. So I write for hospitality brands, and I mainly specialize in long form content and storytelling. And what that does is that it does things like it raises brand awareness, it helps audiences connect with hospitality brands better, and then that in turn results in more guests, more sales, etc., etc. But I really like to focus on the storytelling element of it and just really building organic relationships through good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's an interesting time, isn't it? Because you obviously focus on the hospitality and leisure industry.
Yeah.
Um, I know the journey that you've been on from your business point of view, and also over the last few weeks since we've had the lockdown. So, as we know, and it's been reported, in the media and everywhere that with social distancing, one of the biggest sectors that has been hit has been the hospitality sector. So, how's
Yeah.
that affected your business? Take me back to when it kind of the first couple of days. So let's tell
Yeah, we
everyone what
spoke about
happened.
it, didn't we? So it seems like such a long time ago when it happened, but it was what lockdown happens. Is it like 5 weeks now?
I think
When
it's
they
about 5 weeks ago. Yeah.
so that week I think was a nightmare for everyone, but particularly if you work in the hospitality and travel sector. And I remember when the lockdown, literally, I watched it on the news, the announcement of the lockdown being announced,
Yeah.
and within like the next hour, I received about 5 or 6 different emails from 5 or 6 different clients. And I think it was like a panic thing. And they all said, we need to postpone these projects. And some of them said we need to cancel them completely. And it was really one after the other, after the
Yeah.
other. Really scary. So within a period of like a few hours, I thought I had like nothing left to do. And I remember I called you and I was like really panicky about it, wasn't I?
You
And
were.
it's not even just
Which is
about
natural. Which is
sorry?
natural. Which is natural.
Yeah, obviously I was worried, about myself naturally, but it was just a really sad time because obviously, you want the best for your clients too.
Yeah.
Hearing from them and knowing that it's a really stressful situation, that's not nice as well. So just really sad.
So tell me what happened after that. So you've had the cancellation. People have postponed projects. And I think everyone went through that experience, didn't they?
Yeah, I think
And
so. Yeah.
particularly more so in your industry, probably
Yeah.
felt the
Yeah.
impact even more because social distancing. The whole
Mm.
hospitality sector is all about bringing people together.
All right, Pete.
So so tell me what happened after that.
So after that, I had a tub of Ben and Jerry's and went to bed, and I didn't have a good night. But right after that, I had a heart-to-heart with a very close family member of mine, and I was just sort of like, really worried and upset and stuff. And they gave me a great piece of advice, which was the best thing you can do during times of chaos or perceived chaos even is try your best to help others without worrying too much about how it's going to benefit you, or actually without really thinking at all about how it's going to benefit you. And
Yeah.
I found that just wonderful advice. I mean, it was much better when he said it. He said it in a much nicer way. And that's what I did. So then the next day I put out like a post, as you know, because you helped me with it. and I offered to help hospitality businesses, mainly local hospitality businesses, because I'd heard that a lot of my favorite independent coffee shops, for example, within Birmingham were like closing down and they were in a lot of trouble. So I just post across social media and I said, basically any content creation services or storytelling services, I offered it for free out of goodwill. And off the back of that, I found that obviously people really appreciated it. We ended up helping and working with lots of local hospitality businesses. But you know, it's amazing. After I started doing that, almost immediately, all of my clients, all of the people I was working with, called me back on the same day, and we started, and they basically said, let's take the projects off pause. And they said that they thought about what was going on, and they thought that the best thing that we could do is just continue. And I find that really inspirational. Like, I'm so, I know it sounds really corny, but I'm so proud of the people I'm working with, because every single one of them has taken an amazing approach, and it's so inspiring. Honestly, it's so inspiring.
Yeah, and I know some of the brands that you're working with, and you work with, you have worked with over the years.
Yeah,
some amazingly, amazing brands both locally and nationally and internationally. So you've done lots of different types of work. So talk to me now about the work that you're doing, not obviously mention specific names, for brands in that hospitality sector. What are they doing, and what's their mindset, and how are they kind of leveraging or doing the best they can in these times? So talk me through some of that.
So we've all pivoted, haven't we? That's a great word.
I've been using, I hate the word. And hate's a strong word, but I hate the word, and I keep using it. So, yeah.
It's what everybody's doing, and to be honest, it is. It's. I guess it's what we've been doing with our clients too.
Shifted, should we say? Shifted.
Sorry.
Focus. Shifted their direction slightly.
Yes, they have, and it's worked out. So I think if I was to like kind of categorize it, so the two things that the hospitality brands that I've been working with have been doing, which I think has been really quite good for them, is that they've either decided to continue communicating with their audience, which is obviously really important, something you should be doing anyway, but particularly now, or they've kind of thought of like alternative solutions. So the most sort of obvious example of that would be restaurants who've shifted more into deliveries and online services and things like that. So specifically what we're working on, we've like launched new email marketing campaigns, which has been really fun. And working on like creative ways of keeping in touch with audiences and just letting them know that we're still there and reassuring them, like, we know it's a bit of a crappy time, but we're still here and we're in this together, and not being afraid of showing some vulnerability in that content sharing with them, because we are all in this together. I have a couple of clients who actually, similar to what my family member said to me about just going out to help others, they've offered a lot of their services for free. They've stepped up as industry leaders. And again, that's really, it's like we keep saying, the way brands behave now, if, they'll really be remembered for it after this crisis ends.
And I think what you just said there is the way they've kind of stepped up their activity. But come on, email campaigns, what is it specifically? Because I'm getting email campaigns, 10 a dozen or 2 a dozen now. Or is that the phrase? I'm getting loads of them. Yeah.
What email marketing campaigns?
Yeah, loads of marketing campaigns every day. Everyone's talking about COVID-19 and this and that.
Yeah. And they all have really
same boring stuff.
Yeah.
It's the same boring. I'm getting bored of it now, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting sometimes bored of my own content. Yeah, I am.
That's not good, is it?
Well, it's not, but you just got to keep putting it out there, right? So what kind of specific things are you doing that's different than to what everyone else is talking about?
Okay, so that's a good point, because obviously all of our inboxes, I think, have been clogged up with COVID-related emails at the moment, and they all have really similar subject lines. And it's almost as if a lot of them are using the same template and starting off with that same sentence. We're all going through unprecedented times, which is fair enough. In terms of what we're doing differently, so there's like obviously there's a few different clients, but one of my favorite examples is we've adopted, again, going with the storytelling sort of theme that I like to work around. we've gone with the idea of letter writing
Okay.
and going with the idea of creating like a pen pal relationship with the
Okay.
brand and the audience. And, you know, often people will say, well, you know, people don't really like to read, you know, pages and pages of text, and we don't create pages and pages of text, but people are reading more now. You know, that sort of belief alone that people don't read anymore, and that, you know, written content will be replaced by like video and stuff.
Mm.
One, I get that, but that alone is quite a backwards way of thinking, I think. So
Okay.
what we've done with this particular brand is we've basically launched like a series of letters, very personal letters that tie in beautifully with the brand identity and the brand's values.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we're also sort of combining that with offers and, you
Mm.
know, like freebies and stuff. So there's something in it for the customer as well. So that's quite nice. That's
So,
been my favorite thing that
so
we've worked on.
it's very engaging. It's very kind of, you know, kind of takes people on a journey, right? Is it?
Yeah, I think that's what we're trying to achieve, you know, and it all comes down to obviously things like design and stuff is so important, and ensuring that you're, you know, keeping in line with your tone of voice and
Yeah.
keeping it relevancy is so important. But, you know, as long as it's well written, people will read it. So that's what we're trying to do. And it's actually, you know, we've had some really lovely feedback. Some people are emailing back and saying, I can really hear the voice of the brand and it's reassuring. It's really nice to read. Some people are responding and saying that, you know, we look forward to these emails every
Yeah.
week. And that's lovely, isn't it? It's nice to know that you're doing that.
That's really good. It's really good,
Yeah.
and I think I think now is the time. You know, as you said, that people have that read the reading because
Mm-hmm.
they've got kind of time on their hands, but
Yeah.
I think a lot
Yeah.
of people are busy as well. You know, and um, uh, I think keeping that brand front of mind is something that I always talk about. You know, rent space in
Mm-hmm.
someone's mind.
Mm-hmm.
Brand is built with investment over passage of
Mm-hmm.
time. As you know, I keep going on about that all
Yeah.
the
And it's
time
something
now.
you're currently doing a lot of too, isn't it?
Sorry.
You're currently doing a lot of that yourself, actually, aren't
Yeah,
you?
we're doing a bit of that, but
Yeah.
uh, and I think from your perspective, um, the way you approached it in terms of like the ideas of the pen pal and stuff, it's very creative, isn't it? Because it sets
Yeah.
people apart from, you know, other competition that are out there doing the kind of the more, you know, here's 5 pizzas and get the 10th one free type of thing,
Yeah.
you know. It
Which,
kind of,
which is fair enough too. It's, you know,
yeah.
free. But, sorry, carry on.
But it's more around kind of getting the brand to resonate with people's hearts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Hang on. Yeah,
So
totally. Yeah.
okay. So now you're quite you've got a full order book, right?
Well, you know, it's insane. If you compare it to 5 weeks ago, now I would say it's an incredibly busy time. You
Mm,
know, go as far as saying I'm quite inundated, and
yeah.
that's because, you know, obviously there was the existing projects, which is wonderful, and like the existing projects almost have so much more meaning and value and purpose behind them now in light of what's happening. But then
Yeah.
also there's a lot of content creation around the pandemic, especially. So there's lots more, you know, report writing. That's a big part of, you know, the services that I offer. We do a lot of like report writing and white papers and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
there's so much to write about, and, you know, people want information. People are really content hungry at the
Yeah.
moment, high quality content. So it's definitely been a really busy time.
Some of
Yeah.
these brands. Talk to me about some of these brands. Obviously, I said again, don't mention them, but talk to me about the people that are leading these businesses. Talk to me about their mindsets right now. What they're thinking, how they're behaving, what they're doing.
Honestly, I'm so inspired by the people I'm working with at the moment. It's every single I feel so fortunate because every single hospitality client I'm working with, and the people, not just the brand, but the people who are actually leading these brands, they have such a like a can-do approach. Like the whole thing about through chaos comes opportunities,
Mm,
and just being optimistic, but not in a way that's kind of like naive and ignorant, but in a way where they're just, you know, looking for the opportunities and everything, and really looking after their audience and their people,
mm,
looking after their teams. And that alone, I find, because it's like the law of attraction, right? If you put out kindness, then that always comes back to you. I know
yeah.
it sounds fluffy, but I feel like I've seen firsthand in the last 4 weeks how that attitude alone is really helping these brands. And I really feel that these are the kind of brands that will come out on the other side of this crisis stronger than before. In the long term, it'll actually make their brand stronger.
Yeah, and then we obviously, it's quite, quite widely being reported about some of the brands, not just in the hospitality industry, but obviously wider. And some
Yeah,
really good kind of people that we would look up to.
yeah, yeah.
Have they've shown what we'd say their true colours, and we've seen that in the hospitality sector as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, what would your advice be to some of these brands that would call it getting it wrong? What would you say to them?
I mean, I
What
wouldn't say,
advice would you give to not go down that path?
yeah, I think, I mean, I wouldn't say anybody's getting it wrong. I think everybody's, trying their best at the
Okay.
moment, and it's such a challenging time. I think there are certainly some approaches that are probably better than others that, especially the household brands that have a lot of eyeballs on them could
Mhm.
try. I think it all comes down to remembering to communicate with your audience. Remember, and just really being mindful of the fact that the way we're communicating now, the kind of language that we're using now in our marketing, that's got to change. So maybe how you were communicating with your audience pre-pandemic, maybe that's not really in good taste anymore. I'm not saying you have to talk about COVID all the time, but you have to be very aware that this is happening. You have
Mhm.
to be sensitive of it.
Yeah.
So that's probably the most important thing. Be honest, be open to being vulnerable, because actually people warm to that quite a lot, and just be sensitive and keep it relevant, and continue communicating and staying at the forefront of your audience's mind, but for a good reason, not
Yeah.
because you're not behaving the right way. So
And
yeah, and actually it's great stories. I know I keep talking about it, but it is, use stories, use your personal story.
yeah.
We're all going through such an extraordinary time, so why not share that journey?
And I know you're a kind of an absolute master at what you do. I've had the privilege of working with you on a daily basis, and it truly is a privilege to see someone that's so kind of well versed and kind of skilled in your chosen passion and field. You're one of very few people that I know that really truly does what they love and has just become, an inspiration um, to
Oh,
me and to many other people, but I want to pick your brains just before we leave. If you could give me 3 tips, if people are out there and they can't kind of have the resources to afford someone like yourself, or they're thinking about doing it themselves, give me 3 tips on how they should approach a piece of writing, a piece of storytelling. Tell me what process that you would go through yourself, and how other people can adopt that process within their business.
just for a piece of storytelling, right? Okay.
Piece of writing, a piece of marketing.
Okay. Just for a piece of content. Okay. So the first piece of advice I would give, and this is what I say to everyone, I feel like is preparation. I feel like all too often everybody's in such a hurry to write stuff, and they blame things like writer's block, or they blame things like a poor grasp of grammar, or not being able to spell, and not knowing enough. But the first step to create a good piece of content, whether that's a story, whether that's the social media post, whether that's a report, is to take some time to just feel inspired, which I know again sounds a little bit like fluffy, but you need to get some perspective before you start writing anything. Until you get some perspective, until you truly feel inspired and you feel it over here, you can't start writing something that's truly going to connect with your audience. That's the most important thing. And actually that's a step that many of us skip. And it's so super important. So that's the first thing I would say. Preparation of the mind, though, and read the right stuff. The second thing, when it comes to creating a good piece of content, is don't over intellectualize things, you know, don't write to impress people, write to connect with them, write to tell stories, write to express yourself and what you believe in. You know, you don't have to use long words where simple words will do. The whole point is that people understand you. So don't be afraid of sounding like, you know, simple, I suppose, because that still works. Simple is beautiful, they say.
Yeah.
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 And third piece of advice I would give, once you've finished writing your story and you're happy with it, there's no point in writing a great piece of content if the right people aren't seeing it. And this is something I've learned actually whilst working with you. You know, you could write a masterpiece, but you know, if the right people aren't seeing it, it makes no difference. So things like, you know, even if you don't have a budget for things like digital marketing, take some time to really understand and figure out where you're going to share your content, across which platforms. Really take the time to get to know your audience, figure out where they hang out, figure out what they're interested in, and write for them, and then distribute that content specifically to them. There's lots of other things I can say, but I think those three are probably it for now.
Neely, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. You know, you're welcome. No, I really appreciate it, and thank you for sharing your insights over the last few minutes. It will be a real value to people, and good luck with everything, you know. And I hope when we come out of this that you know, you'll go on to bigger and better things, and I'm sure you will.
We're going to have a big old party. That's the first thing we're going to do when we get. But thank you for having me. I love these series of interviews that you're doing. They're really fun.
Well, I think yesterday I put the interview together, but Omar kind of asked me the question, so we thought, how to do like that? It works. It kind of works. It's slightly different, yeah. But I just think that because of the sector that you're in, the hospitality sector, and the fact that, you know, you've kind of seen a shift from the initial panic to people now wanting to do stuff. I just think it's a really interesting story that you kind of in the trend, but in the right way, if you know what I mean. Not like kind of throwing it in people's faces saying, "Look at me, I'm doing amazing," whilst you're doing all wrong. But it's just the way it's been approached.
Yeah. I mean, we're going through such a challenging time, but you know, we'll all get through this together. I think that's the most important thing to remember is not to lose hope and to just continue. Yeah,
I think so. And where can people find you?
On my website. So I don't know if it's better to maybe leave this underneath the video. So we've got Neely there. Okay. You can find me on Facebook, Neely Khan, Instagram, Neely Khan, and you've already found me on LinkedIn. So there we go. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you, Neely. Have a great day, and look forward to speaking to you tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye.